Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Kristy Bickmeyer to the show. Kristy is the founder of Twinkle Toes Nanny Agency, and they have locations all across the US. Twinkle Toes offers quality, affordable childcare services. And today I'm going to ask Kristy a few questions about her entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that she has used to start and grow her business. Now, before we dive into this interview, if you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And for more content like this, please visit our website, treptalks.com. And with that, Kristy, welcome again, and thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, I was talking to you a little bit before hitting the record button, and I almost got the impression that you are entrepreneurial by nature. Can
That's
you share a
true.
little bit about yourself? What were you doing before starting your business, and what kind of really motivated you to start this agency?
So before I started Twinkle Toes, I was a property manager for a student property here in Gainesville, Florida. We're a college town, and so the majority of our properties are student properties. And I was the GM for a big property here, and quickly learned I am not a good corporate employee.
Hmm.
I'm not that person, which has really been true throughout my whole life. Like you said, I'm by nature an entrepreneur. It's just it was kind of a personality defect before. And now, since I can use that defect to make money, it's a career and it has a cute name like entrepreneur. But
Hmm.
yeah, my mom has always told me, like, you are so anti-authority. Like, you really hate authority, you resist authority. And growing up, I'm sure that was a huge challenge for her. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that piece kind of, you can either use that to become somebody who's not very desirable member of society, or use it to blaze your own trail and be fearless in the way that you think and reject conventional wisdom and kind of make your own path, which is really essentially at the core of every entrepreneur.
I completely agree. I struggle with that all the time as an entrepreneurial personality myself. I'm in the corporate world, and I I completely um, empathize with the everything that you described. So,
Yeah.
but I think entrepreneurs have to figure out, if they're in the corporate world or something like that, how to work with it, until they find a way out, I guess.
Right.
So why a nanny agency, and how did you transition from, property management to a nanny agency kind of a thing?
Yeah, the two are very unrelated. Well, I worked as a nanny all through college. So
Okay.
I knew that world, I worked for an agency and I kind of knew that world. And it was what's known in the industry as a placement agency, which means families paid the agency a placement fee. It's usually a couple of $1,000. And for that fee, you get to interview nannies that the agency has screened, interviewed, all of that stuff. So that's the type of agency I worked for. And just working as a nanny from that perspective, I saw some flaws with that because I worked for two surgeons and I had to go to work when I had the flu. I had to miss family vacations because they depended solely on me. They couldn't cancel surgery because my car wouldn't start, or,
Hmm.
I had a fever or whatever. There was no backup for them if I got sick, and there was no relief for me. I was totally at the mercy of their schedules. And then I became a parent. Once I graduated from college, I'm working as a property manager. I became a parent. And then I was faced with, well, what am I going to do for childcare? I didn't want to put him in daycare. And I couldn't afford at the time to pay a few $1,000s just to get a list of nannies, because then on top of that, you have to pay them. You have to
Hmm.
figure out the contract. You have to pay their payroll taxes. You have to figure out what's your plan B if the nanny gets sick or something happens. So that started the wheels turning, and I ended up having my mom and my mother-in-law split the week to care for my son while I went back to this corporate job that I hated and was terrible at, and just like everything about it was bad. And so I had already started thinking, like, well, if if I could remove that agency fee, that would make it more affordable for families. But then how would the business make money? So just kind of thinking through all of these problems and solutions, I came up with what's now my business model, which is families don't pay anything up front.
Hmm.
We're more modeled like a staffing agency or like a cleaning service or any other company, any other business in the world, really, where the customer pays the company and the company pays overhead and their workers. So the customers pay the agency, we pay our nannies and all the other expenses. And as a result, we have more of a nanny network.
Hmm.
So I had some proprietary software created a platform for families and nannies alike. So you would have, your full-time Monday through Friday nanny, but if she gets sick on Wednesday, I can, what we call, open the shift so that it takes her off of the schedule with you, and all of my other nannies can see, like, this family needs a nanny just for today. And
Hmm.
then they can apply to fill in and cover that need for you for the day.
That's very interesting. So, I mean, it almost seems like you created a platform where,
Yes, we did.
and is there some sort of a bidding also on that platform? So, if a family has created an opening, let's say, I want a monthly nanny services, do nannies apply directly, or is that something that you are managing?
The families are contracted with the agency, and the nannies are also contracted with us. So it's all done through the agency, because if the nannies were applying directly to the family, then they would be that family's employee because the family would be paying them directly. So instead, we are contracted with both sides. And so we help facilitate that. And we provide support, all along the way. If it's not working out 2 months in with this nanny and you want a new one, we do it again. We find you nannies to interview all over again, and there's no additional fee for that.
So there is kind of a personal approach to this, as opposed to, I'm sure
Yes,
there are nanny platforms out there where, a person can post a job kind of a thing, and different
right.
nannies can apply, and then they can interview themselves.
Yes.
So the
Well, that's
value
like
add,
care.com, that
okay,
which is self-service, the nanny's on their own, the family's on their own. It's time consuming. You have to sift through a lot of applications. You set up interviews and half of them don't show up. I mean, it can be a full-time job.
for sure. And so the value proposition here is that you are the one, basically you have a roster of nannies that you know and trust, and you
Correct.
know that if you are going to schedule them, they're going to show up, and so
Mhm.
far. And the families have a level of trust that they know that you've kind of vetted these people, they're safe, they're reliable, and so they don't have to do the work to hire the people. They can rely on you, basically.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And so when you started out, I'm assuming this is a very investment low business. I mean, did you have to put up some investment in early on to start the business, or?
Not really. I did what I could afford to do at the time. I was still working the corporate job. I started this on the side. I think I paid like $250 for someone to build me a website. And then I designed my own brochures and had them printed, in very small increments because that's all I could afford. I
Hmm.
had no advertising budget. So I had door hangers made, and I would go, on the weekends and put door hangers up in all the neighborhoods. So it was a very low investment. I mean, it's still relatively low just because there's no building, there's no brick and mortar, there's no overhead in terms of employees. You don't pay the nannies unless they work. So
Hmm.
you're not having to pay to keep people on staff if they're not bringing in revenue.
Hmm.
So it is a very low overhead. Even now, it's a low overhead investment.
And so now is your business model more of a franchise model? So you're,
Hmm.
rather than you going out to a new city and trying to recruit new nannies, you're basically trying to find other people, other entrepreneurs who are interested in creating their own branch, maybe their own city branch of your company that's a franchise, and then, are they paying you like a fee, an annual fee for
Yes.
that?
Yeah, we're a franchise now. So the flagship location is the one I started in Gainesville, Florida, 13 years ago. And everyone is a franchise now. And it didn't start that way. I started by expanding into Tampa. and owned that one for almost 10 years. I just sold it last year as a franchise to a new owner. So I owned that one. I also owned the one in Jacksonville for a while. And those were kind of my test markets, because to be a franchise, you need to prove that your model works in different cities and that it can be run by different people. So it's
Hmm.
not dependent on me and my personality. It's not dependent on the demographics in Gainesville. And we proved that in Jacksonville and Tampa, and then became a legitimate franchise by, taking the legal steps to have a franchise disclosure document drawn up and all that stuff. So that happened in 2017. And then since then, every new location is a franchise.
And now, what does your day look like as an entrepreneur, as a business person? Like, what are you working on day to day? Are you really just marketing your franchising business to recruit new entrepreneurs who are willing to buy into it, or like what do you work
That
on a daily basis?
that's part of it. Yes. It's no day. I mean, I never have the same day twice, which is what I love because I get bored very easily. So I love the different stuff. Just for an example, today I met with I've had meetings online all morning. The first one was with a marketing company who does lookalike ads on Facebook. And I was kind of vetting them for my franchisees to recommend them to franchisees as part of their marketing plan. And then I met with someone who is working as my fractional CMO right now, and she's helping with marketing for the overall brand for franchise development, but then also for the individual locations. And then later on, I have a call with my tech guys because we're still constantly improving this platform that I created.
Hmm.
And we just rolled out a new payment system for that helps eliminate credit card processing fees for my franchisees, saves them a ton of money. So we just implemented that last week and we're still kind of working the bugs out of that. And then I'm also talking to families constantly in Gainesville because I'm still very hands-on at the Gainesville location.
Hmm.
So it's everything from marketing to tech to financial stuff to, customer service with the families, helping nannies when they have an issue that comes up. So I've got my hands in a little bit of everything.
Who is your competition? Who are you? I mean, are there other similar agencies that are following similar model, or are you competing against like those platforms where, as you describe, it's kind of a self-service kind of platforms?
There are other agencies using this business model, but still in terms of agencies, I would say the most popular is the placement agency where, a family pays a large sum of money and then the family employs the nanny.
Hmm.
So it's the most traditional. It's one of those things where like it's the way it's always been done. So that's the way most people still do it. From a business standpoint, that model has never made sense to me because you don't have any ongoing revenue.
Yeah.
The family pays you once and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no residual income. Um, and then there's also care.com, which like I said before is a self-service thing. But then there's also, I mean, competition can even be word of mouth. If you're just out there asking your friends, who did you use? Who's a good nanny? Word of mouth can be competition if someone
Hmm.
finds their nanny that way.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, I mean, that's how I understand, right? People usually would find like someone, a teenager or someone who's looking for some part-time
Mhm.
job. It has usually been word of mouth for a nanny. Somebody recommends, I know this person, it's reliable, you should have them as a nanny or something. Um, what who do you think is your target market? Like, do you have you kind of narrowed down your demographic? I mean, you mentioned surgeons. I mean, are you
Mhm.
really going after kind of high net worth families kind of a thing?
We are going after dual income families. Both mom and dad have full-time jobs because those families, not only can they afford a nanny, they don't have time to do the search on their own. When I'm not kidding when I say it can be a full-time job.
Yeah.
They don't have time to do that. They need to outsource it and they're willing to pay a premium to do that because they recognize the value in what we do. Because just like, they could schedule 10 nanny interviews on care.com, 5 of them don't show up, 3 of them are unqualified, that leaves 2 to choose from. That happens to us all the time. And that's why this is a valuable business because like my recruiter who works with me in Gainesville can schedule 20 interviews in a week and only 10 of them show up. And then out of them, you know, we find out different things through screenings and background checks that disqualifies half of those. So, I mean, that's to get 1 or 2 qualified nannies, you know, and we're recruiting for 7 different families right now. So it's really time consuming to put that much effort into it. So we want someone who has young children under the age of 3, because that's who needs a full-time nanny, and dual income, you know, professional parents.
Who makes a great nanny?
That's a good question. I have found after 13 years of doing this that age has less to do with it than maturity. And I try to explain that to especially new moms come in and they're like, I want somebody who's at least 30 years old and has a degree and speaks 2 languages and, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, I have 50-year-olds who are more flaky than my 20-year-olds. You know, it really is about the person and about, and that's why we rely so heavily on references. Like you have to have really good written references. We call and talk to them, make sure that you are, you know, really a solid person who's going to actually show up. And when you do show up, that you're not on your phone the whole time playing games or texting people or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it can be someone older, it can be someone younger. It's someone who's responsible. It's someone who does what they say they're going to do. It's someone who shows up when they're supposed to. All of our people are CPR certified. They've all passed a criminal background check, a civil check, and a driving record check, sex offender registry. We, you know, check all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's like a cookie cutter answer for that. Like this is the ideal person. It can be it can be a lot of different demographics, but we're looking for the overall quality and maturity of the person.
And I guess, you know, once you work with someone for a little bit, then, you know, you probably get a sense of the person. I think you know, being a nanny is a very personal kind of a thing.
Yes, definitely.
How have you had to evolve as an entrepreneur since you've kind of started on your entrepreneurial journey? I mean, you mentioned that now you're working with marketing agencies, you're working with you know, technical people trying to develop your platform. Of course, you know, you probably didn't have a lot of technical background. Can you share a little bit about your own growth evolution as an entrepreneur and how are you kind of managing like wearing different hats now? To manage and grow your business?
Yeah. So when I first started, it was strictly, you know, reaching out to nannies for interviews and it was answering the phone and talking to families. You know, it was very family, which is the customer, and then the nanny, which is the employee, like those 2 things. That was basically it. And now it's grown into more of I'm managing the franchisees and providing support to them. And it's a lot of legal work. It's a lot of reading legal documents, understanding, interpreting, enforcing, because the franchise agreement, you know, it is the backbone of the franchise. You know, I can only hold my franchisees accountable to what they signed in the franchise agreement. So it's important that both sides understand that. And then, yeah, I've had to recently pick up this tech education, which I'm not a tech person. You know, I'm a people person. That is not my thing. So I've had to get very uncomfortable and learn things that I don't necessarily care about, don't want to learn. It's one of those things like it just kind of makes my eyes glaze over. And, but it's important, you know, I mean, I have to know this stuff because it's going to better my business. So yeah, I've just gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable and okay with asking questions. And, you know, when I'm in a meeting saying like, can you tell me what that word means? I don't know what you're talking about right now. I don't speak this tech language. And I think in the beginning, I was probably more insecure about that because it was like, I felt like I had to know everything to be taken seriously. And I can't know everything. I'm good at what I'm good at. And this new stuff that's coming my way because of the growth, I'm learning as I go. And it's okay to like raise your hand and say, I have no idea what that word means. Can you talk to me like I'm a 3rd grader and explain it like you would to a child? And that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm dumb or unsuccessful or anything else. It just means like this is a new thing I'm learning.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean nobody knows everything, so it's like you have to ask questions and be comfortable with that, I guess.
Right.
Um, do you consider now what is your goals for the business? Like, are you trying to now kind of build a brand around this service, which becomes kind of a household brand? Like, is that your big focus, or is your focus still to, just continue to grow, add new franchises, and really just continue building on the revenue?
Well, I mean, I think if you do one, the other comes naturally. My main goal is to make sure that my current franchisees are successful. And that's the idea behind this new platform with alleviating some of their expenses with the processing fees. That's what I'm doing with these two marketing companies I'm working with. So my main goal is to make sure the people I already have in my franchise system are as successful as possible. Because ultimately, I mean, that too is going to grow my business, but I care about those franchisees. I have single moms, who left jobs and a sure salary to take a risk on me and my business to come do this. So I feel like I owe them something to
Hmm.
make sure that I'm giving them everything that I can so that they can be successful. Ultimately, it falls on them, obviously, if they're going to implement, the things they're learning and follow the procedures that they've been taught, that falls on them. But I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make them successful. Beyond that, new franchise locations is the next goal. So I have a few in mind, a few cities I want to be in, like my top 5, in the next year. I think there's a huge danger in growing too quickly in
Hmm.
this business, because if you bring on, you sell a bunch of new franchises, you have all these new franchise agreements with people, but you don't have the staff to support them.
Yeah.
And I'm only one person. And like we just said, I don't know everything. I need to outsource a lot of stuff. And if I don't have the staff to do that, then they're going to fail pretty quickly. And that's not what I want.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
guess my goal is to grow at a reasonable and sustainable pace.
that makes a lot of sense. And as you were describing it, I mean, I kind of realized that it is like anyone who, or the franchise owner, it's a big responsibility because, if they're not entrepreneurial or if they haven't been in business before, it's a big learning curve because, they have to, I mean, it's a lot of marketing. They have to go out, get new clients, and at the same time, they have to recruit new nannies and, make sure they're reliable and trustworthy and so forth. And I mean, do you support them on the marketing side? Like how
Mhm.
do you support them at the beginning to really get them from zero to, have a few nannies and a few clients that they can start having some revenue generation with?
Right. Well, our initial training is a 3-day in-person training where they learn basically the standard operating procedures, how to do what we do, right? Like how to get the families and what to do when the families call, basically, and how to handle the nannies and just the A to Z of how to run the business. They get in-person training on the software that I've had built that, is proprietary. It's just ours. They don't bring any knowledge of it to the table, so they've got to
Hmm.
learn all of that. It includes scheduling, communications, billing, paying the nannies, like it's all under one roof. So they have to learn that, which is that's a big piece. At that training, they will also get a marketing plan that's specific to their location. And then for the first 6 weeks, ongoing marketing support in the form of a phone call from the marketing person every week to make sure, and the marketing plan is broken out by, week 1, week 2, week 3. So the week 1 call, we're checking up and making sure they did the week 1 tasks. And then we can talk about week 2. And then we're basically just making sure that they're staying on track and doing the things that are laid out in the plan.
Very interesting. Um, to me, it almost seems like there's an opportunity. I mean, you're developing this platform, the software for nannies, and it's creating basically this agency. Do you ever think that, you can transition to selling that software in the future? I mean, that could be a business in its own.
Yes, and I've been approached about that a few different times. And it's definitely a possibility. And I've kind of built it with that in mind so that it's not too nanny and family specific. It could work for pet sitting. It could work for, I don't know, a plumbing agency or anything where it's, you've got customers and you've got workers that clock time and need to get paid, basically. So yeah, it's definitely in a position where it could translate to different avenues and different businesses.
Yeah, I mean that could be a much bigger business, I assume.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, I think so too. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm still learning the tech side of it, and I don't know nearly enough to like take it to that level. So I would at minimum need some sort of mentor or partner or something to help me through that, because there's just a lot there that I don't know.
okay, I can actually recommend something I'll share with you maybe
Okay.
after the call. Um, what about risks and challenges? I mean, this is, of course, at the end of the day, it's a people business. You have
Hmm.
nannies going into people's home, being with their kids and so forth. Have you, I mean, do you ever deal with situations where something goes wrong and it's like a kind of a big risk kind of a situation, and or that's not really an issue because you do a lot of the vetting up front, and so things usually are okay.
I mean, the things usually are okay. We've had situations where um, maybe a nanny handled something in a way that the mom didn't like, or that, I wish she had done something differently. But in terms of safety, that hasn't really come up, because it's, they're really highly vetted. But still, at the end of the day, if someone doesn't have a record, they pass all the screenings, they have good references, that doesn't mean it's foolproof. I mean, anybody can mess up on any given day. And I mean, there's definitely still a risk, and that's, my mom tried to talk me out of opening this business all those years ago because of that. She's like, these are people's kids, they're in their homes, there's too much risk, too much liability. And it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously it is a risk, but I mean, I feel like anything worth doing is a risk, and we can just take every necessary precaution and then some to try and, alleviate some of that risk and be as safe as we possibly can. So that's what we do.
In every entrepreneur's journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. Since you've started on your entrepreneurial journey, is there like a big mistake or a couple of mistakes that come to your mind where, it was a big learning experience for you? And what can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Well, I mean, I think that's part of the value of buying into a franchise system. I made all those expensive mistakes on the front end that somebody who wants to start their own nanny agency, they're going to make the same mistakes and waste a bunch of money with different contracts, with different scheduling platforms, all these things that I spent a lot of money on getting just right. And that's a benefit of buying into a franchise, right? Like, it's a foolproof, ready-made system. We know what works. And here it is in a box, turnkey, ready to go. So, I mean, I spent time, energy, and money on, I mean, I went through a few different attorneys in the beginning, trying to find someone who understood my business model and wrote an appropriate contract for both the nannies and the families. Um, I spent a lot of money on marketing people, and they're not all created equal. I feel like I'm very hesitant to work with marketing people now because it's something that's not always measurable,
Mm.
and it's a very expensive field. It's something they charge a lot of money, and then if there's no results, then it's kind of like, well, maybe we'll see results in 3 months, maybe 6 months, how do you measure that?
Yep.
So I learned a lot of lessons there in like talking to people who have used that person before, whether it's an attorney or marketer or whatever, and making sure that they got the results that I'm looking for. And all of that, asking the right people, that all comes from networking. And so I cannot overstate the value of networking and knowing other entrepreneurs and surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you and who are farther ahead in their entrepreneurial journey than you are, because that's the person's mind that you want to pick.
For sure. Yeah. Talking very briefly about marketing, do you think, like, in your experience now so far, what kind of marketing works best? I mean, of course, digital marketing, online marketing, that's one avenue, but to me, it almost feels like that, with this kind of a business, if an agency located in a city, it's more of a, can you get that door tag, advertise, door to door kind of a thing, or do you figure out, a way to access a database where the families that have children below 3 years of age or something? Because I mean, you could be going door to door, and if people don't have that age group of children, then it's a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you approach marketing or targeting your demographic?
Well, things have come a long way since those days, in terms of being able to target very specifically. At that time, I just happened to know this is a neighborhood where a lot of kids live. And so I would hit those neighborhoods.
Okay.
But our strategy is, it's kind of, it's very broad, because you can do a lot in the digital space. You can do a lot with Google ads and Instagram, Facebook, and you can also do a lot with direct mailers. You can do print ads. I mean, you can put your name out there, but in this business, people need to know you and trust you. And so if they never see your face, it might as well be care.com, because my families, when they call me, they know my name, they know what I look like, they know who they're talking to. And it's because I'm in the community. I go to events whenever there's, some sort of kid festival or fall festival just for kids. Like, we have a booth there and we're interacting with the families and the kids, and they see us and they get to know us. So I think we're a little bit unique in that way. It's not like an auto shop where you bring your car in and you don't care who's doing the oil change. People care who's not only providing for their kids, but like, who's the person behind that person. They want to know me, that I'm meeting with the nannies. I know them. I'm recommending them. So, I mean, part of it is reaching those families, but a lot of it is putting myself out there as the face of the business so that they can get to know me and get to build a little bit of trust in me.
That makes a lot of sense. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a word or two or a sentence. So the first one is, one book recommendation for entrepreneurs and why?
I have two. Can I have two?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the 5 a.m. Club.
Okay.
That one it changed my life because it helped me format my day in the most productive way. And then the other one was Good to Great. I loved Good to Great because it taught me the hedgehog concept.
Okay.
And it taught me that just because someone is in my organization and they might not be doing well where they are, put them in a different seat on the bus and they could excel. So it's all, it's about getting to know your people and where their strengths are.
Yeah, that's great. Talking about the 5 a.m. club, do you have a morning routine? And if yes, what is it like?
I do. I wake up. I refuse to wake up earlier than 5. That's my cutoff. I don't ever want to see 4 a.m. on my clock. So 5 a.m. at the earliest. And that's the best time for me. And it includes the first little bit after I fed the dogs. The first little bit is like just personal quiet time with either some sort of spiritual practice, or if I'm reading a business book, I read 10 pages of that, just something on like personal growth. And then it includes a workout for an hour. And then I can get my day started after that. But I don't look at work emails. I don't look at my phone. Like, it's nothing to do with work or social media. It's just personal development and workout. And then, and a lot of that is because, but once my kids get up, or once I wake them up at 6:45, like, there goes my day. The rest of my day belongs to them, belongs to my husband. answering the phone, I'm putting out fires, I'm picking them up, I'm cooking dinner. I'm like, that is the only time I have where I can do what I want to do, and what I need to do for myself is if I make my day longer by waking up earlier.
Yeah, that's I mean, having it's not easy, you know, as a female entrepreneur when you have a family and so many things to take care of as well. Um, an innovative product or idea that you feel excited about.
My own product, which is the software
Okay.
that I say I've created. It's my brainchild. I didn't actually do the work to create it, but it's still mine, and it, the way it has streamlined my business and made it so much easier is like, man, the franchisees coming on now have no idea how hard it used to be and how much longer everything used to take, because we had one website for billing, a different website to pay the nannies, a third website for scheduling. And then I had to walk around with my huge laptop that had all my family files on it, so that if a nanny was coming to their home, I'd have to like find a place to log on, send an email, send the attachment with the nanny's profile. And now it's all automated. I can do it all from my phone. I can do it anywhere, which is the best part, especially having kids. So that's the most exciting thing to me.
Have you named the software yet?
I mean, no, not for outside use. We
Okay.
have, it's part of our website. It's like the back end of our website. So
Okay.
I need a
All right.
clever name.
Um, a business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
A productivity tip. So I wake up early, like I said, and get, the most important things done first. I'm also a big believer in working in short spurts,
Hmm.
uninterrupted. I used to try to multitask, and I have since learned that and I learned that from reading the 4 Hour Work Week. That was another great book. Pick one thing, do it until it's done, and then move on to the next thing. And that has made me so much more efficient.
Awesome. Another startup or business that you think is currently doing great things.
I just heard about this one on one of the marketing calls I had earlier, and it's brilliant. And I wish I was doing it here, but it's basically Uber for kids. And it's a mom in Texas, and I don't remember the name of it. So
Hmm.
if she's listening, I'm sorry. But it's basically private transportation for kids. And that's something I looked into doing as an add-on here, because we get so many calls about that. Families that
Hmm.
don't really need a nanny, they just need rides for their kids. And I stopped working on it when I found out how much the insurance cost for it. Cause it
Hmm.
was like, I mean, it was cost prohibitive. It was like, I would have to charge families more than they would ever be willing to pay just to
Hmm.
cover the insurance cost. So
Wow.
if she has figured out a way to make that work, I think that's awesome.
That's really interesting. I think Uber has recently launched something similar. Either it's Uber or somewhere, because I recently saw something, transportation for kids somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of like Uber teens. I don't know, but this is like kids. Like they could even still be in car seats. I'm not
Okay.
putting my kid in an Uber.
Okay.
Without me, absolutely not. But this is like, she hires the people, she vets the people. It's almost like a nanny who just drives the bus.
Wow. Very interesting.
Hmm.
Another entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
I would say, I mean, there's a lot of people in my network that I look up to that inspire me, even my franchisees. Um, I'm working with Brooke right now, who owns Momentum Brands. She's the fractional CMO I'm working with. She's amazing. Um, she's just got it kind of, it's run very efficiently, and that's something because she's also a mom of a toddler, and has all the same commitments I have. And
Hmm.
it's been nice to work with another mom who gets it done and has a plan and is on schedule. And, our calls are always very productive.
Awesome. Final question. What is the best business advice that you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I mean, first of all, I've gotten a lot more bad business advice than good business advice. So let me just say that. But I would just say, like, if this is something you believe in and you can make work, don't give up on it. It might be slow starting. You might have to change your business plan or your pricing. You might have to figure it out as you go, but you can't stop the first time you hit a speed bump. That's going to happen. I would just say, if it's something you believe in, something you think the world needs, don't stop trying to make it work.
Yeah, and that's
And
such a
don't
great.
have a plan B. Do not have a plan B. Don't have a safety net. Don't have something you can fall back on. Like, do it. Do what you want to do.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, that's a great advice because, I think most businesses have to pivot. You start something and then you learn and then you kind of change your idea or build on top of it. And then, so I think that's kind of the natural process of business development. So definitely a great advice. Well, Kristy, those were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your insights. If anybody wants to, get in touch about your business and services, what is the best way they can do that?
My email is Kristy, Kristy, at twinkletoesnanny.com. And my website is twinkletoesnanny.com.
Awesome. Well, Kristy, thank you so much again for sharing your story, for sharing your business insights, and thank you again for your time, and I wish you all the very best.
Awesome. Thank you so much.